Dear friends, I welcome you for EPG Pathshala course on internal security, modules on disaster management. The current module is on role stakeholders in disaster management and role of stakeholders. During this interaction or during this discussion, we are going to highlight the importance of what is response, and then which are the different stakeholders or role players in the response system at national level. As far as response is concerned, we have already discussed the concept of disaster management cycle. When we were discussing disaster management cycle, we started disaster management thing by with an event which is happening and which is so called disaster. So the response system starts pre-disaster when we are going to evacuate people. So exactly the response system starts from that point. So response is comprised of number one, preparedness and emergency management after a disaster has taken place or event has taken place. So it's preparedness, emergency management comprised of search and rescue, relief and recovery. And within recovery, as discussed earlier, recovery is short term and long term. So especially up to short term recovery, where you provide some support to re-establish the facilities, life support system. During this discussion, we are going to focus all these stages, and that is comprised of response. So let's start with preparedness. For responding to a disaster situation, you have to be very well prepared. And as indicated earlier, or as we have already discussed, there are various responsible agencies which issue forecast, and based on those forecasts they issue early warning, and early warning ke basis pe we have to evacuate people, and for evacuation of the people you have sufficient spaces to take them to those places, and during those evacuation shelters you have to make necessary arrangements for their well-being during that time of evacuation. So to manage this entire process of evacuation and all those things, so you have to develop a number one, a system where proper early warnings are issued. So you have to strengthen your early warning system. Early warning system in case of cyclone, flood and all those things of late is based on satellite and remote sensing satellites. So when you are taking help of remote sensing satellites, your space program need to be very high quality. In India, we are fortunate enough that our space program is very high quality, and we are providing support not only to our Indian events, we are taking care of international level as well. So based on those early forecast, whatever we have issued, we issue early warnings, and responsible agencies are issuing that, and those are sending those messages that, like in case of cyclone is coming. So from there the role of administration starts, and administration has to communicate that warning is coming and people has to evacuate. So you have to have important communication system, and communication system should be in local languages which local people shall understand. So number one, you have some forecasting system, robust forecasting system, you have good communication system, and then unless you prepare the community to accept your forecast and early warnings, people are not going to listen you seriously. So you have to build the capacity, that community based disaster management, you have to build the capacity of the community to take care of your early warnings. So for a robust early warning system, you have a disaster prepared community which can understand your early warnings. I will quote an example from Orissa Cyclone in 1999. When early warning was issued by IMD, state government was very serious, they keep on issuing, but people were never serious and they never believe that such a severe cyclone can happen. And we were unfortunately lost almost 10,000 people. That is the official figure. around that much. So this is the implication. You have to prepare community mentally to accept your early warnings, and that has to be done during your community based disaster management program, community disaster management, community preparedness programs for disaster risk reduction. So that is one part. Second part, under preparedness is because your agencies are going to respond. So you have to build the capacity of your response agencies. And which are the response agencies? Yeah, like your National Disaster Response Force, your State Disaster Response Force, your other agencies like police, home guard, civil defense, and all agencies who are in that frame of activities. So how to build the capacity of say response forces, NDRF and SDRF and other relevant agencies. So you have to, number one, provide them appropriate and sufficient equipments. So procurement of equipment is one thing. Number two, you have to provide them adequate training, capacity building of them. So training and capacity building and procurement of equipment is an integral part of your preparedness measures to respond effectively to at the time of disasters. Simultaneously, as indicated earlier as well, you have to build the capacity of the communities as well to respond during a disaster. So disaster preparedness is the key for your effective disaster response. Now come your emergency management. With this level of preparedness, your event has taken place. So in the first step after an event is that your search and rescue. So who is going to search and rescue first? So here comes the role of your community. Community is the first responder. So you have to build the capacity at preparedness level at pre-disaster stage so that they can take charge of the event. So you have to build the capacity of the community for search and rescue and relief. Simultaneously, you have to take assistance of your service response agencies like NDRF, SDRF and other agencies. So those are the agencies which will definitely take some time to reach to the affected places. So community will take care till that those response agencies are coming, and after the arrival of those response agencies, they will start taking care of. So in case of an earthquake, for example, what is required? Buildings are damaged. Your community is not having those sufficient and sophisticated equipments. Under a debris of several tons, how a community is layman, a simple man is going to identify a person is there or is he alive or dead? So here you require the sophisticated equipments, and those are available with response agencies. So response agencies will come after some time and they will use either dog squad or cameras or other sophisticated equipments, and they will come to know that who is underneath this debris and is that person is dead or alive. If he is dead, it's okay, they will try to retrieve the body. If he is alive, they will definitely try to rescue him. Once he is rescued, then you have to provide the medical assistance. So response agencies, your medical team has to be part of that response system. Generally NDRF, SDRF, they have a dedicated medical component of the core team which is going to that particular site, but that is for the short period of time. But after taking that care of the patient or the affected person, you have to refer him to some better facilities. So you need those facilities to transfer that affected person to some better facilities. So you require other equipments like transportation vehicles. So this is about search and rescue. Then you have to provide relief. Who is going to provide relief? In the first instance, it's the local community by our own resources, and then the government. Government has to come forward and provide all sort of assistance. That is, they have to provide your medical assistance at first, then your food, your clothing, your water, every need has to be provided by the government agencies. So this is part of your response. Then during a big disaster, life is impacted in terms of your water supply is disrupted, your electricity is disrupted, your sewage system is disrupted, your communication lines are disrupted. So those need to be restored. So who is going to restore? Again, the government setup has to come forward and start providing, taking care of all those things. So you have to take care of those things. So this is basically the response. You have to start building your capacity before disaster. After disaster, search and rescue, you have to procure equipments, you have to know how to use those equipments, then you have to provide relief, you have to provide some short term recovery. And at the same time, when you are going for short term recovery, you have to assess the need, what is required for long term recovery. So you have to go for post disaster need assessment, which is again very specialized thing. So you have to build the capacity of the system at pre-disaster stage itself, so that we can identify what are the needs going to be. Post disaster surveys has to be done to identify the needs. So you have to go for PDNA, and again building capacity before disaster. If your system is not conducive to conduct post disaster need assessment, you have to go for higher international expertise. Again, it is going to be very effective, very costly. So, and then those international experts, they do not know so many things about the local system. So you have to be very careful. You have to plan, as we discussed in the earlier parts. You have to plan for post disaster management at pre-disaster stage itself, including your PDNAs. So once needs have been identified, say certain amount of money is required, certain amount of resources are required, then governments has to intervene. As discussed earlier, central government or the national government has the supportive role. They provide the financial assistance. So state governments, based on their PDNAs, have to request national government that this much of amount is required to reconstruct the system for long term recovery, and then central government has to provide. So this is the existing system. So you have to build the capacity for effective response. There are large number of stakeholders at national level, state level and district level. As discussed earlier, we have 3 tier of disaster management system at national level. We have the national system, we have a state level system, we have district level system. These are the formal systems. Besides that, we have informal system, like so many communities or community level activities has to be performed. Communities are the worst sufferers, or they are the sufferers, and they are the first responders as well. So you have to take care of all of them. I hope you are able to understand the concept of disaster response. Now we will focus on various stakeholders at various levels. There are certain ministries which are responsible for managing disasters, or you can say responsible ministries, like overall responsibility of disaster management is with the Ministry of Home Affairs at central government level. Similarly, disasters of natural disasters basically is Ministry of Home Affairs. Disasters like drought is managed by Ministry of Agriculture. Medical related disasters like biological disasters and all those things, Ministry of Health. Atomic type of disasters where radiation and all those things have taken place, Department of Atomic Energy. Then flood, Ministry of Water Resources, especially Central Water Commission is responsible for managing things. Similarly, then cyclone is Ministry of Earth Sciences, and IMD is the responsible agency. Landslides, Geological Survey of India. Then earthquakes, Ministry of Earth Sciences and again IMD. Tsunami, It's INCOIS is the responsible agency for that. So various type of disasters are managed by respective ministries which are handling those type of activities, like road accidents are managed by Ministry of Surface Transport, uh, uh, civil aviation related disasters are managed by Ministry of Civil Aviation. So all those agencies are responsible for managing disasters falling under their sphere of activities. As far stakeholders at national level are concerned, uh, there are various prominent stakeholders at national level. The most important role is being played by Disaster Management Division of Ministry of Home Affairs, as being the nodal ministry. Ministry of Home Affairs is basically the responsible agency for managing natural disasters, and within that the Disaster Management Division is responsible for almost everything. So major role played by DM division is that they coordinate the things, they compile the information, they bring out the situation reports, they brief all important persons at national level in the government, and they are basically the mouthpiece of government of India to speak about so many things. So but Disaster Management Division is one of the nodal agencies, plays a very big role. Another agency plays a very big role is National Disaster Management Authority, which is directly under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister of the country, and that is the agency not responsible only for response but the entire disaster management. And within the authority, Prime Minister is the chairman. There are provisions for one vice chairman and few members. Earlier they used to have 9 members. Now they are having 3 members, and a few more members are in the process of being appointed. So NDMA is basically the agency of the government of India for policy planning and all those things. They have brought out a large number of guidelines for managing different type of activities related to disaster management. They have they are one of the nodal agencies, and they are the agencies which are changing the shape of disaster management at national level, and they have already played a very significant role in all spheres of disaster management at national level. Another agency is National Crisis Management Group under the chairmanship of Cabinet Secretary, and various different secretaries are member of that, and NCMC is basically the major decision making body related to disaster management, and they take all critical issues at the highest level. So they are very senior level decision making body at Government of India level. Another important agency is National Executive Committee, and National Executive Committee is headed by the Home Secretary, and basic responsibility of NEC is to look after or assist NDMA in development of national plan and other policy level issues. So this is another very senior level decision making body at Government of India level, which helps various stakeholders at national level in managing disasters. A very important component of managing disaster or response related activities is the emergency operation centers. Emergency operation centers have been established at national level, which are basically the hub of activities to manage disasters in a effective and coordinated manner. We have a National Emergency Operation Center located at Ministry of Home Affairs. Another replica of the same center is located at NDMA, and those are the parallel things. If something happens to main NEOC, so the second one can take care of the thing. What is basically NEOC is comprised of? They have a lot of communication channels available, different modes of communication to respond to during disaster situations. So NEOCs are very good concept, where we take care of emergency support functions which are required to assist the state governments during the time of emergencies. And there are 13 ESFs, emergency support functions, which NEOC take care of during the emergency. Basically, NEOC compiles all information from all available sources, especially from the concerned state governments, and they compile all those informations and bring out the daily situation report based on the things. The report is comprised of the disaster management targets achieved, or what is the situation existing at that particular moment of time, and what are the requirements identified by the state governments, and the means and ways for providing that assistance has to be done through emergency support functions. There are emergency support functions which are basically the responsibilities assigned to various ministries, which has to be coordinated by the National Emergency Operations Center. There are 13 ESFs so far identified, and those ESFs include like communication, public works, drinking water, rural development, urban development, and sort of things. And the ministries handling those things are responsible for that particular ESF. And what ESFs are supposed to do, that they are provided some space within the NEOC, and during the time of crisis, when say some requirements have been posed or requested by the concerned state government, that we are looking for some facilities to enhance the communication during the emergencies. So Ministry of Communication has to provide the assistance, and NEOC has to coordinate through Ministry of Telecommunication and the concerned ministry at the state level, so that a robust communication network can be established during the emergencies. So ESFs play a very critical role in defining the emergency thing during a disaster like disaster phases. Then another important role player at national level is the National Institute of Disaster Management, which is basically the capacity building organ of Government of India. This is one of the components by the Disaster Management Act 2005. The NIDM is basically imparts training and capacity building or activities. They conduct research, they document disaster events, they come out with the lessons learned. They conduct training not only in face-to-face mode, they have online training programs, they use satellite mode for imparting training. When they are imparting training through satellites, they target almost more than 1 lakh or 2 lakh people, and in one go they impart training. And generally those type of training programs are for communities, and when NIDM faculty interacts with the community, so the local community sitting in district or village, they can see them, they can listen to them, but they can pose questions to the faculty. So it's two-way communication from one side and one-way communication from the other side. So that is there. NIDM is bringing out journals and all sort of activities, and NIDM has been able to impart training to larger chunk of stakeholders at national level, and they are very effectively implementing the agenda given to them by the Government of India. Not only that NIDM is involved in capacity building activities, they are implementing various national level programs and projects. Like recently they are able to implement programs on capacity building of architects and engineers for earthquake risk mitigation. Those were where they imparted training, developed a cadre of trained professionals in earthquake engineering related things amongst engineers and architects, and those are the things. Besides that, NIDM hosts EAS is East Asia Summit Earthquake Risk Reduction Center, where they interact with the larger community in East Asia. Besides that, they host a large number of conferences and workshops and all those things. Recently, last year, they were involved with the other stakeholders in the government in organizing Asian Ministerial Conference, and in coming days they are part in organizing regularly. They are involved in organizing national platforms on disaster management. So national platforms are basically where we involve all stakeholders in disaster management, and we come out the policy, how national policies and programs has to respond to disaster situations. One of the major role player in disaster response is the National Disaster Response Force. Again, this is the agency which is directly related to response during disasters, and disaster NDRF, we do say, is again by the same act, Disaster Management Act 2005, they established. Basically they are the compilation or combination of various paramilitary forces, and they have been trained in various spheres of disaster management, including collapsed search and rescue, collapsed structure search and rescue, nuclear biological things, like flood thing, all how to rescue survivors during floods, and all sort of things. And they have been provided some sophisticated equipments like cameras and all those things, canine squad, and they have a large chunk of trained manpower for responding after the disasters. And NDRF has been instrumental in not only responding, but as indicated earlier, at preparedness stage itself. They are preparing communities for responding to disasters. They are going to respond to disasters in foreign countries as well, and especially NDRF got a lot of laurels, bring lot of laurels to the country after their work in Japan after that triple disaster, when earthquake happened, big earthquake happened off coast in Japan, which triggered a big tsunami, and a lot of damage took place due to tsunami, and that tsunami triggered nuclear disaster. So NDRF is really one of the pioneering agency at national level, which has imparted a lot of activities and has given a shape to disaster response at national level. In earlier days, we were relying a lot on armed forces for disaster response, but after creation of National Disaster Response Force, we are our reliance on armed forces is reducing considerably, and it is hoped that NDRF will be able to fulfill all those requirements in coming years. And NDRF has really been instrumental in shaping the disaster response at national level. NDRF is having several battalions which are located at various important and critical locations throughout the country. As mentioned earlier, they have been specialized in collapse structure search and rescue, which is necessary for earthquake response. Similarly, they specialized in nuclear and biological things. So they are critically located almost all throughout the country, and based on their locations, like in Northeast, they specialize in that earthquake search and rescue and all sort of thing. Similarly, they have developed the capacity of those battalions based on the requirements of the things, based on the requirements of the local things. At state level, we have almost a similar structure, and most of the things at state level have also been evolved by the same act of disaster management. But the major responsibility of managing disasters at state level is of that concerned Department of Disaster Management and Relief at state government, and concerned Relief Commissioner is the responsible officer at state level. So that is the department which takes majority of load in managing disasters. Similarly, at state level, they have state executive committee, they have state disaster management authorities, they have state, some of the states have state response forces like SEC, as State Executive Committee is chaired by the Chief Secretary. SDMAs are chaired by Chief Minister, and similarly they have another robust system. And many states have very effective and robust SDMAs like Bihar, like Gujarat, like Orissa, like Assam. They have really very well functioning SDMAs, which has revolutionized the disaster management at a state level. So hats off to those states. Many states are really doing lot of work in disaster management, and this is the thing where communities have been trained by SDMAs, and this is the basic thing which we have to achieve at national level for robust disaster response and mitigation system. Similarly, at state level, we also have a state emergency operations center, which again coordinate the state level emergency support functions. At district level, we have DDMAs, District Disaster Management Authorities, again constituted under the same Act, Disaster Management Act 2005, and District Magistrate is the chairman of that. Similarly, we have a District Emergency Operations Center, or to say control room, which compiles all information, which activates the ESF at district level, and there are some other committees at district level which helps or assist district magistrate in managing the disasters. In addition to all these agencies which we have discussed, there are several agencies which help in managing the disaster or disaster response. The number one is like armed forces. Whenever the capacity beyond when the capacity of our response agencies gets limited due to certain reasons, so we call the armed forces for managing response effectively. Civil defense, home guards, fire departments, local police, and similarly other agencies also play a greater role in disaster response, and all of them are basically the first responders. So they also play some role in disaster response at local level. If we talk about some long-term recovery, so rehabilitation and reconstruction are part of that. So when we are going for rehabilitation, so we have to go for physical rehabilitation, we have to go socio-economic rehabilitation. And similarly for under reconstruction stage, we have to go for building back better, so that our system can be robust and can respond in earlier next time of disaster, whatever is going to happen. It's very heartening that we have very robust system of disaster response at national level. As mentioned, we have national level agencies, we have state level agencies, we have district level agencies, but there are needs for strengthening the capacity of all those agencies. Like NDRF, they are having well trained cadre, but same thing can't be said with same confidence about SDRF and other agencies. So we have to build the capacities of all response agencies. We have to build the capacities of the communities in not only disaster risk mitigation and disaster risk reduction, but in disaster response as well. There are certain states which has already taken a lead, so we have to learn the lessons how they have taken lead in disaster, preparing the communities for disaster response, and we have to inculcate the same culture in all states at national level. Then we have to involve local bodies like panchayats and municipal corporations and all of them, so that we can have a lot of representative of communities available there, and communities generally listen to their own people. So we have to take the assistance of all those elected representatives. Simultaneously, we have to build the capacity. We have to build the capacity of emergency operation centers. We have some very good emergency operation centers, but we have to build, make all emergency operation centers at various levels, including district, state, and national level of same level. Besides that, there are so many things which we require for good response, like improving communication and so many things. So we have to look for effective response holistically, so that we are able to manage our response system effectively. Thank you.